Guys, we got your moving to Colorado survival guide today, and it starts now. Guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Tim Campman, your host for Everything Denver, Colorado, where we talk all things Denver real estate. And today we got a little bit different of a video. We're going to be answering some of the questions that come through and give you sort of a quick down and dirty survival guide to moving to Denver, some things to consider on your move here. And we'll talk about Denver, but also some of the surrounding suburbs and where you get the best value for your money. So make sure you hit subscribe. And when you're thinking of your move to Denver, hit me up, call, text, or email. I got your back on all things Denver real estate. All right, so one of the first things in your survival guide is going to be your packing list and things that might be a little bit more unique to Colorado and some things just to prepare for before you get here. So you've probably heard that Denver is the mile-high city. That's because we're a mile above sea level, so altitude and elevation sickness effects from it coming up to altitude, especially if you've lived at sea level your entire life. So you're going to need to take some time to get acclimated for that. And a big thing that's going to help is to really increase your water intake, because not only do we have this higher elevation, we're also very dry climate. So you're going to notice immediately, if you're from a very humid area, all that moisture like being sucked out of your skin and dry mouth and all the things that accompany that. But you get used to that pretty easily, being away from the humidity, and it's very nice. So number one, increase your water intake before you get here. All right, and number two that goes along with some of this extra water intake is your skincare routine. If you're fair skinned like me, you're gonna wanna bring some sunscreen or some way to protect yourself from the sun, especially if you're planning a trip up into the high country where you're gonna be at an even higher elevation, the air is thinner, you're just gonna have a higher propensity to burn in that environment, and your skin is also gonna be very dry. So bringing some type of lotion and chapstick for your lips is definitely gonna make your time here more pleasant. And really, no matter what time of year that you come here, whether that's winter or spring or fall, bring layers of clothing to change into, especially if you are going to the mountains and you're in the fall or winter time. You're going to notice the seasonal changes very quickly. So feel like it's 75, 80 degrees, but as soon as that sun goes behind a cloud, or if you're hiking in the mountains and it goes behind one of the hills there, the temperature drop can be pretty drastic, and it'll feel 10 to 15 degrees cooler. And if the wind kicks up after that, it's going to feel even colder. So that's why you hear people say, hey, dress in layers out here, because you will need to shed some of them as the day warms up. But as soon as the sun goes down, it gets pretty cold pretty quickly. So you're going to want to layer up again. Let's talk about transportation, vehicles, and getting around. While Denver and the metro area does have a public transportation system, it's not the best or most robust. It's nothing compared to like the places in Chicago or New York City where you can get everywhere with transit. So I would plan on having a vehicle here in the Denver metro area, regardless of where you live. Even if you're in the downtown area, you're going to want to explore some of what Colorado has to offer, like the great outdoors here. So make sure that you are planning to have a vehicle. Denver and the surrounding areas are very car dependent, and you're going to want to make sure that you can get around fairly easily. Now, winter driving, a lot of people say, do I need a four-wheel drive? Do I need snow tires if I'm thinking of a move to Colorado? And here's my recommendation. A four-wheel drive will make your life more pleasant. It is easier to get around in the winter times, especially when we get those snowstorms. It's not a requirement. If you have a two-wheel drive vehicle, front-wheel drive, you should be able to get around most of the time. They do a really good job of keeping the roads clear here and free of snow. Every once in a while we'll get a large snowstorm that may shut down things for a half day or a day, but those are fairly few and far between. Most of the time we have enough notice of the snowstorms that are coming in that the plows can get out, lay down that mag chloride to keep the roads from icing over. So four-wheel drive will make your life easier, or an all-wheel drive vehicle, but not a necessity, and you don't necessarily have to have snow tires either. If you have a two-wheel drive car, they are going to help you get a little bit more traction. So if that is the plan to keep that car, I would invest some snow tires for that. But in general, if you got a four-wheel drive, drive and you have all season tires on it, you're going to be able to get around just fine. So don't stress too much about winter driving. It's not like some of the places that never get snow, like maybe Oregon or Texas, where if you get a dusting, the entire city might shut down. We're very accustomed to it, and we get the roads cleared off pretty quickly. Another question that comes up a lot, and maybe because of my time as a police officer that people feel comfortable asking me, is what are the firearms laws in Colorado? Can I open carry? Can I get a concealed permit? Colorado is an open carry state, so if you choose to openly carry a firearm, you're free to do so. Now, some cities, municipalities, and counties may have stricter guidelines on that, like Denver County does not allow it, but you can get a concealed carry permit. And that's what most folks do when they move out here. And if you get it in one county, say like Arapahoe County or Douglas County, it's good for the entire state. So another question that comes up is Denver like within the mountains? Am I surrounded by it when I make the move here? No. Unfortunately, all the shots of downtown Denver and to Denver are from the east pointing west. So you get that beautiful mountain skyline across the background of the photo. But Denver is actually set to probably 30 minutes to the east of the foothills, and that's kind of the entry point of going up into the high country and into the ski resorts and things. So if you live in Denver or any of the suburbs kind of around that Denver bubble, you're probably going to be around 1 hour to an hour and a half from most of the ski resorts. Now, if you live up into the mountains in one of the entry mountain towns like Genesee or Evergreen or Conifer, you're going to be a little bit closer, maybe 30-45 minutes from your nearest ski resort. But if you're in those towns, you are living kind of in the mountains, so you're going to have to do a lot more preparation on your home, deal with a lot more snow and ice, and have a little bit longer winters than you do here in like the lower part of Denver and the surrounding suburbs. So another question that comes up is because of certain events in the news recently and have spotlighted Denver and Aurora, are those cesspools that I should totally avoid and to survive out in Colorado? And the simple answer to that is no, they're not. Most of those incidents are fairly isolated, like the Venezuelan gangs in Aurora were isolated to a few apartment buildings and particular neighborhood within Aurora. Aurora is a very large city. It's like the second largest in the Denver metro area. Even rivals Colorado Springs is like our second largest city in the entire state. And so there's some really nice, beautiful neighborhoods that are safe and secure neighborhoods that you can explore. So just because you see, an article on the news of, hey, I saw this, part of Denver had this rise in crime. They're usually fairly isolated to some of the really urban areas, and you're going to have that regardless of where you are in the country, whether that's Chicago, New York, LA, San Diego, Houston. Any of the major metropolitan areas are going to have a little bit higher density and as a result higher crime rates. So don't let that totally scare you away. There are so many amazing suburbs just outside of Denver, and that's what a lot of people end up doing is they come out and they say, hey, I want to live in Denver, but they explore it and explore some of the surrounding suburbs. They're like, well, everything's kind of intertwined and connected to each other, but I really prefer like this area of Lakewood, or I really prefer Littleton or Centennial versus being in that urban inner city of Denver where you're kind of in that downtown bubble. So a lot of what draws people here to Colorado is this outdoor living and all these amazing trails and open space and just the nature feel. And if you live in the heart and downtown area of Denver, like lower downtown, midtown, the central business district, or even the Capitol Hill area, you really lose a lot of that, and you're really just in any other type of city. So moving out from that, spreading out to the suburbs like where I'm at now, this is actually a Columbine open space down on the south end of town. Is really nice, and it was only like a 10-minute drive from my front door. Really cool areas to explore and check out. So don't limit yourself to, okay, I saw Denver is a really cool place, I want to be there. We got tons of different suburbs surrounding it that are very, very popular for a lot of people relocating here. Another thing to be prepared for when you move here is Denver is really much a sports town. So we got all the major sports from NFL, MLB, National Hockey League, even MLS, Major League Soccer. We have some team in almost every form or sport that you can imagine. And especially a lot of the natives, we're losing kind of the native base that we have, is very rabid about the Denver Broncos and a lot of the other sports teams around. So we've been blessed to have some very good sports teams here in the Denver metro area, between the Nuggets winning the championship a few years ago, also the Avalanche did. Not so much for our Broncos recently, and you know it's a really good sports town when the people still root for the losers of the town. And sadly for us, that is the Colorado Rockies. Every spring opening day is just packed down there. It is a very cool place to go and just hang out and just, you know, enjoy the atmosphere. You're really not going there for the baseball because it's nothing to write home about. Another thing to be mindful of is just that there are days when we have poor air quality here in the metro area. Mainly a lot of it's tied to some of the wildfires that seem to happen in the Rocky Mountains, whether that be, you know, here in Colorado or to the north of us, even up into Canada. A lot of that smoke and some of the air quality gets damaged from that. It's not every day, and it's not something that, you know, affects a lot of your day-to-day life, but when you're used to living outdoors a lot of the time, and like you can golf almost year-round here as long as there's not snow on the course, it can affect certain days. So there may be certain times, if the air quality is really bad, that you choose to work out indoors, but 95% of the time, really, it's not going to affect your day-to-day life. So some really great things to check out when you are here. Don't follow all of the publicly publicized things to see around the Denver metro, like 16th Street Mall or some of the other attractions in downtown. I would say go off the beaten path. Now one exception to that is Rocky Mountain National Park. This is a gorgeous place. You do have to make plans to go there because it is very popular, and they don't let everyone in each day. It's kind of started with COVID, and they limited the amount of people that could go into the park. But it is a really cool place with hikes, lakes, everything that you can imagine up there. And then another one that people kind of overlook, and this is a little bit further drive to the south, but go down to the Colorado Springs area and check out Garden of the Gods. You're gonna see these beautiful red rock formations. There's hiking trails and biking trails kind of throughout the area. It's gorgeous. Definitely a place to check out. And then there's also a ton of different local trails that are just around, and different open spaces and reservoirs to go check out. So make sure when you're thinking of making your move out here, I got a few relocation guides and just area guides for different parts around the Denver metro for you to check out. Things from local restaurants that I like to local coffee shops that are not your traditional chains, just like Starbucks and things like that. So make sure when you are thinking of the move here, you get those in advance so you kind of prepare your trip and check out some of these different areas and local hotspots. So what are some of my favorite neighborhoods and suburbs of Denver? Since a lot of people end up moving out here and choosing one of the suburbs versus Denver, a lot of people say, hey, which one is your favorite? Where would you recommend people look? And it's going to depend on your stage of life and what you're into, obviously. For families and people with young kids who are looking for strong school districts and a lot of stuff for families and kind of a community feel, I definitely recommend towns like Castle Rock, Parker, Littleton, even Lone Tree to an extent, although Lone Tree, it's a little bit higher end, more of a corporate feel to it, but they do have good school districts there. And even though Lone Tree is a little bit higher end of a community, more corporate in type of environment, they do have good school districts there and a lot of things for young families to experience. Now, if that is not your stage of life, you are looking for something a little bit more urban, contemporary, and you want to be in an area with a lot of things that are walkable and things to do, definitely an area further north of Littleton would be a very popular place that I would recommend. Also, the city of Centennial is a great place to go and check out, as well as Lakewood and Arvada. Arvada would also be, a great spot for families, but they got a really charming, old downtown that's got a little bit more of a small town feel, but still trendy with a lot of local bars and restaurants on this main street. So really kind of depends on your stage of life, what you're into, what you're looking for, and what's going to fit you and your family best. And probably the number one question that comes up, and I know it's based out of a little bit of fear from headlines and things, is there any areas that I should avoid, that I shouldn't even bother looking at? And well, I'm being a licensed realtor, I can't steer you to or from a particular neighborhood. Always make sure you have access to the information on school ratings, safety, and crime statistics and things like that. And I wouldn't really blackball any city in particular. I know Aurora gets a bad rap, but those are just certain pockets of Aurora that we should definitely avoid. There are parts of Denver that we should definitely avoid, and look elsewhere if they're not going to fit your lifestyle and things like that. So while I would not discount or take off any city off the table, there are certain neighborhoods in different cities in different parts of town that we would talk about a little bit further when we have our first consultation on your move here to Denver. And another question is, what is cost of living like? Property taxes, day-to-day living, home prices, and things like that. Now home prices will be specific on the type of home you're looking for and the neighborhood. Median price in Denver right now is about $585. And if you look outside of the city of Denver into some of the other suburbs and things, you're going to find that is probably the median home price for a lot of the towns around. But the further out you get from Denver, the higher caliber of home you're going to get, the larger home you're going to get. So while $585 might get you, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot home that's pretty small but does have some historic charm, that same $585 to $600,000 moving out to Lakewood or Arvada is going to get you a 2,500 square foot home, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and a larger lot as well. It might not have the same vintage charm that some people are looking for in the Denver bungalow that is kind of a traditional house around Denver, but you're going to get a lot more for your money and get something that's a little bit more updated as well. Property taxes around Colorado. Colorado's been long known as having cheaper property taxes than a lot of places, and our tax rates in Colorado are quite a bit lower than a lot of other towns and cities across America. The problem is we have every tax. Like you go to Florida or Texas and they don't have income tax. You go to a place like, I believe it's Washington, and there's no property tax, but they have sales tax. In Oregon, they have property taxes, but no sales tax. Vice versa, one or the other. I can't remember exactly which one has which. But Colorado, you got all the taxes. And while the tax rate might be lower, yes, you're going to have to deal with property taxes, sales tax, income tax, all of the taxes. The government's going to get its money one way or not. But the nice part about Colorado's property taxes, and this does help in your monthly payment, is they are lower than places like Texas and other spots around the country. So cost of living is a little bit higher than some of the rest of the country. We're probably about 5 to 10% higher. And most of that is due to home prices. Our grocery prices are pretty in line with most of other parts of the country. Healthcare costs are pretty in line with the rest of the country. Our energy costs are actually a little bit lower than a lot of parts of the country because we do produce some of our own natural gas and oil here in the state. But cost of living, plan on 5 to 10% higher than a lot of places around the US. But if you're moving from a place like San Jose or San Francisco, any parts of California or Chicago or New York City or Boston, you're going to find that the cost of living is actually a lot better than those areas. So it's all relative as to where you're coming from and where you're moving to. The other positive and good thing is that wages are higher here in Colorado than a lot of other places around the country. So median household income right here in Denver is about $89,000, and that is significantly higher than a lot of other places across the U.S. Not sure exactly how long I've been walking, but man, it's nice to have this trail here. Glad I've stayed on the trail because probably couldn't find my way back with all this knowledge I've been sharing. So bottom line, and thing I'm trying to get across in this survival video, I hope I've given you a few tips of things to prepare for on your move out to Colorado, but it's a really great place to live. There's 300 plus days of sunshine here. It's very dry, so you're not dealing with the humidity and the heat of a lot of different places. And we don't get nearly as hot as a place like Arizona or New Mexico. That's really a pleasant place, and there are a ton of beautiful outdoor activities to experience, whether that be the mountains and the mountain lakes and hiking and mountain biking, or if you just like experiencing something that's a little more flat and a lot of open space with forest and trees, we got that too. So the only thing we're missing here is an ocean, and heck, you can travel for that. So make sure that you reach out to me, call, text, email, and we'll get you set up for success on your move in and around Denver.